Sure.
Here.
Alt.
Here.
Half-Carden. Barron.
Here. Any public comments? Okay. County farm waterway issue. Guess we haven't heard any updates from them as to when we can start. You know, so we'll move on to county farm contract. If you haven't got the word yet, we're doing the contract, special management meeting immediately following the regular board meeting.
Next Tuesday, or a week from Tuesday.
Right. So hopefully you can hang around afterwards. Tiling issue. Apparently some feel that there's an issue with some broken tile on the county farm or something that may need to be taken care of. I don't know if that can be incorporated in with the waterway. You know, I'm not sure how all that lays out over there. So, and it may just be a tile that needs to be fixed.
Is that related to all that water that accumulated south of the courthouse?
That some feel that it could be, yes.
Donna felt that that problem's existed for quite a while when I talked to her about it.
Yeah. So, no, I'm not. Yeah.
There's tile on that corner of the field.
Yeah.
There's tile broke, and there's tile that's right at the ground level. So, it's going to be pretty dense. Because that lower tile at the ground level. They take one on the railroad. And yes, that has been like that for 6 years.
Now, the way it lays out over there, would a water, is that anywhere near where the waterway should be?
No. It could possibly get in. Yeah. Could drain into it, but I don't think it is.
Okay, so if, when they do the waterway, they run a tile up the waterway, which a lot of times they do, it can be extended and maybe take care of that issue?
Kyle and McRae, myself, I can't remember who else out there at that time. We got the city involved. I mean, it was the city tiles. They said, well, of course, they know, but tried to find out where it came from, what it does, and what contaminated product.
Courthouse yard.
Yeah, so we went to the courthouse. I don't know who it is and what it is.
Okay. Well, I guess that's something we'll be investigating while we're doing some of the other stuff. Okay, heat pump. Clyde, heat pump over there. Okay, but it hasn't had to run very hard either, has it?
I don't know. It's pretty warm when the days over there. Since he came and checked up for the gauges on it, there's only been 3 mornings that came in and was out. He was able to reset it and start back up. Yes, the last couple of weeks it's been good, but it hasn't been that warm in real meetings. I've been keeping the daily log on it, and the temperatures, nighttime, daytime temperatures, that was what the service side suggested, so we can try and track it. And if you came in and checked it, it's been running a lot harder. Well, I didn't really do anything, you just looked at it, but I don't see anything wrong on it.
Okay, well, I guess we need to decide, because we have money this year to do it, and talking with Kyle, he would rather it was done now so we don't have to worry about it next year.
It's an old heat pump.
Yeah,
Yeah. On the roll along, take care of wall line down down by the trees at the other end, and it takes care of the north office.
So, I mean, what's you guys' feelings on it?
If we table it for 1 month, is there still time then to get it done this year?
That, no, because it's got to be done by November, or November 30th. So that puts us into October. That's by the time you advertise and get the work done now.
One motion, we replace it with tile center, things to be done. It's an old one, we're just waiting for it to go bad.
Well,
Everyone in this building is old except the ones that's been replaced in the last couple of years.
right. Now,
They're all going to be replaced earlier than you're down at the other end, just to try to use some kind of guesstimate cost. That one down there was a $96,000, I think, BTU. This one I believe was around 70 or 74 BTU, so. Where that comes in cost, that one down there replaced was about 12.5, something like that. Did that one, so.
What's the average lifespan of a heat pump? You have anything figure in there? So when this guy looked at it, he said he saw nothing wrong with it, but there was a problem with it.
Yeah, it kept kicking out on high pressure. So if those gauges on it, check the pressure, and gauges the pressure to right where they should be. So could be an intermittent problem with the switch, the pressure switch or something.
well, we have
If it's not
30,
acting up, why would we change it? Because it's old, huh?
preventative maintenance issues would be when you have the money to do it and you have an issue that we don't want to have to do it in the middle of the winter if we can help it. We got $32,410
How many heat pumps do we have in total?
from what?
How many heat pumps do we have in total?
How many total heat pumps was there here? It was 20 some, wasn't it? What, 30?
And you've replaced how many in the last couple of years?
4 or 5. Been doing an average of about 2 a year.
It just sounds like the problem with this one, you know, like you said, it could be a bad pressure switch, could be a gauge that isn't working right. It just, I mean, there's no way to ascertain that. It kind of makes it
Yeah, another thing they said could be in the blower motor that they don't have to have the blower motor. If the blower motor is not running, it's going to overheat with a high pressure. And one of those
Can't tell what it is, that's right, I understand.
Catch you up. So we're talking about heat pump over here. That iffy lately, it hasn't been acting up. Yeah.
That's the one that was kicking out all the time.
We have money in the budget to do it. Kyle would like it done this year since it's been acting up, but since we had the last couple of weeks, it hasn't acted up. So that's where we're at. Like I said, we have $32,410 in the budget for heat pumps. We know this one is giving us issues. And next year, if we have more than 45,000 that's planned for that goes bad, there is no extra money. So we have a motion, but we haven't had a second, and we are still discussing it.
to take time, to do the job, and decide later to pull the trigger, and then when they do.
If we're not gonna do it, we don't wanna spend the money on advertising it. We wouldn't have to. Just call the,
Traditionally or historically,
Isn't there any test that could be used on it to determine what's wrong with it? I can't imagine something that can't be tested out and find out what's wrong with it.
if it is a motor that's iffy, then as long as it's working properly when you're here, it's not gonna show up. You know, I've run into that a lot of times where you go and nothing shows up. And even though it's locked out when you're there, you reset it, try checking it, nothing shows up. So I mean, sometimes they just are hard to find until it goes out completely, whatever's wrong. So, how much does it cost every time you come?
It was about $350, so we'll check it out.
So how many times do we spend $350 before we go ahead and pay for the heat pump?
about the bidding, historically, we've had 2, maybe sometimes 3, but I think the last couple of times 2 bids. And there was a disparate amount of difference in the bids.
Right.
Weber was like 50% less, as I recall, maybe 40%. It's who usually ends up getting the bid.
Right.
So it's always good to get bids, but in this case, when we kind of know historically how they run,
Well, I guess we can get bids without advertising since it is below the amount. Am I correct on that, Anita? We can get bids without advertising since it's below the amount, right? Okay.
or, yeah, I think we don't use the word bids then, we get, what's the
Estimate.
quote, estimate?
Okay. And,
You could ask for a field session, so that you can open the meeting.
okay.
Let them both know that you don't know what the other bid is.
Right. And
Don't know, like, see them to see. No, not how to see it, but
yeah,
whichever way you want to do it.
kind of materials.
Right.
The other thing I think you want to make sure that you do is somehow document that we're going to ask them to make sure that they quote prevailing wage. We've had a lot of review of our contractors, especially Weber, where they use something we are asking for the first like to go for. That's one thing that is published, it's very clear that you ask for prevailing wage and kind of something like that. But you just want to, if you're going to call, you want to call them and then you just put it on the website and make sure it's published on the website. But you want to definitely document that you did quote it as prevailing wage.
Well, if,
$900? Oh, really? 500?
Yeah, it's expensive.
Well, I forgot, it's not just the Times Republic, we have to do it.
I think that is
That is just the time.
well, and if we call them and they're interested, we could fax them a spec sheet
right.
that has on it.
And if it's, you could give them like a sheet that they have to turn in with it, so that we document what you've done and what we're reflecting.
Okay, well, we have a motion on the floor with no second, so is it either going to die for lack of a second, and we'll ask for another motion, or do you want to restate your motion?
I'll second it.
Okay. Can you restate the motion for, do you have it down?
Move to replace the heat pump
Okay.
in the health department.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Now it's only should be discussing it. Is there any further discussion?
My big concern is if we don't have the money next year and it goes out, we're in trouble. And we have it this year.
Right.
There's emergency funds for things like that.
I-
Because if it goes out in the wrong season of the year, I'm sure it will be done.
What is the budget like, Anita?
For next year?
Yeah.
That was what the emergency fund is. $287, wasn't it?
Well, right. Yeah, 50,000 in contingency, but I don't want to mention that for a heat pump. Historically, we've used that for union vacation. We have that every year, and that's really what we use a lot of. I'm sure we're one who's very, very small.
So this money that we have right now is just gonna evaporate out into thin air if we don't use it this year, is that it?
Well, it's not appropriated. You can be, actually, if you look on your, I laid a separate sheet, and it's in next year's budget, and then down in the little box in the corner is the estimated cash of what you can have improvement on. We have funded that, it's a single sheet area, it might be over there. Right. And then, so I do a cash roll over each fund. And so you can see where you are with cash. We're estimating at November 30th to have $166,000 in the capital improvement fund. We've moved money both from the general fund and from the farm fund into the capital improvement fund in the past. And then, so then we have 67,000 or so in projects for next year. So we have maybe $100,000. The issue is that that's not cash. The issue would become, you would need to do, open the budget, it's not budget, you have to open the budget, increase the budget, and then.
Which means it would have to go through our committee, finance committee, and the whole
Right.
board.
Right, you put in an extra month.
Right. And it would have to do that before we put it for bid.
Right.
So that would be a 2-month process to get a heat pump done in the middle of winter, if we were out of.
I guess part of my question would be that when this money was set up for the heat pumps that we have in this year's budget, I thought the thought was going to be that we would continue to have a similar amount every year, anticipating that these heat pumps would continue to need to be replaced
Right, which is why we budgeted 45,000. If you look at that single sheet,
for the coming year.
we have 45,000 for next year.
Well, somebody just said if this one went out, we wouldn't have any money.
Well,
There
no,
it is.
if we have this money now, we can expect at least 2 per year to go bad the way it's been going. If we have more than that go bad, because every year that goes by, they're getting older.
Well, I suppose the philosophy needs to be then, are we going to replace 2 every year, or are we going to replace them as needed and try and get them to go as long as they can?
Well, we're
That's
spending-
really what we're talking about here, is a
Right.
part of the, what is our policy or philosophy with these things, or...
Well, the
because,
last
Can this be
one,
one of the two?
that's
Right.
why I'm asking the question.
Well,
Or wouldn't that be?
the last one that we replaced was still limping along, could have been repaired. It was a matter of how much money do you want to spend repairing a 20-year-old unit versus replacing it.
You talking about the one at the county clerk's office?
Yeah. And we've already spent $350 having this looked at with no result. There'll be another $350 when they come again, and then if there are parts, it'll be on top of that. So,
I understand that part, but I'm getting back to what's our policy or philosophy here. I mean, because we have the money in the budget and we don't use it, then that's one issue. Is that money going somewhere else, or can it be added in, or are we just gonna,
Unless it's budgeted, it will go someplace else.
well, I mean, we're not really,
And I guess what I'm getting at by saying that is, the policy on that was, we were having trouble, so we replaced it. This one, we're having trouble,
when we talked about this, we said, you know, who knows, it could be 6 of them go out in 1 year.
it could
It could
be.
be 0. So my thought on that would be, you know, maybe with some of that money that's in there right now that wouldn't be used this year ought to be rolled forward to, you know, into the next year in case we have that situation, until you get them all.
Well, that,
I mean,
well,
that's a
but
different
that-
matter, but
Yeah, I mean,
I just
That won't-
think we should have, because if our policy is to replace 2 every year or whatever's in the budget, then fine, we ought to go ahead and do this. If our policy is to try and get them to go as long as they can, then maybe we need to not do it.
Well, one of the 2 each year you're replacing, you obviously would pick out something that was questionable.
If that's our policy,
Yeah, right.
I want to know what is our policy.
So that would be the one set in that.
Putting the money in the budget is there in case, that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that your policy is you're going to do it.
Well, the money's been allocated elsewhere for the budget, the next
Well-
budget year. And what we have next year
It
is,
hasn't been approved
No, it
by the
hasn't.
board yet.
well, when presuming that it will be, we have 45,000.
For
So-
next year.
Yeah. Yes, I understand that.
Well, what's wrong with using it next year? 45,000, it wasn't gonna cost us 45,000.
45,000 would cover 3 heat pumps. I just get back to what I said. What is our policy? If our policy is to go ahead and spend this money on heat pumps, whether they need it or not, pick out the worst ones or whatever you think, fine, then maybe that's what we should do.
Well, historically, I think they've only been addressed as needed, as it came up that there was a problem.
Historically, we haven't been doing anything.
yeah, because it's only been the last several years
Yeah.
that they've had problems, you know, the last
So
3,
it's
4
on
years.
an as-needed basis when the
Yeah.
problem arises.
Hasn't arose. We didn't have any policy for the last few years.
The problem, as the problem arises, when the one quit in the clerk's office completely, and when, where were the other ones? I can't even remember.
Well, the first one, maybe you don't want to hear the history, but the first one was assessment, and that happened towards the end of the winter, but it was cold. And we weren't prepared, and it wasn't budgeted, and it took us 2-3 months to replace it. It was that first year when it was so hot, like in March. So not only, these women were in there trying to work, first off, with their sweatshirts and their coat hats.
And the doors opened to let
And
heat
the doors
in, I
open,
remember
trying to
that.
let heat in. And then when it got to be, 90 in March, they're like hotter than the G's in there, trying to do their work. Same thing. Yeah, if it goes out, then you're gonna, it's a room back there in public health, how many people are sitting back there in that office?
3 or 4. Usually 3. There could be more, but at any one time, it's usually 3. I'm just asking the question about if our policy is to replace them because the money's in the budget, then we should do it. If our policy is to wait until they absolutely have to be replaced, then I think we should wait.
Sounds to me like the policy has been to replace them whenever they have started.
We don't have a policy, sir.
Past
Right.
practice has been replace them when they start having a problem, sounds like.
Yeah.
Right where
Is that one that they've had issues with, is that the one that, in the area where they were having issues last year with controlling the heat?
Yeah, they were having problems with heating last year too. It was acting up at that time. I remember several times I had to reset it during the heating. At that time, I wasn't familiar with heat pumps, still not that familiar with them, but not knowing that that was actually an issue possibly with the heat pump itself. But that was also at the time when we were having a boiler issue, so the boilers kicking out, heat pumps kicking out, not being able to put the two things together.
Yeah.
my experience with heat pumps, if a heat pump's starting to go bad, it's generally going to trip a thermal, an overload, or a break. A high pressure situation, you know more about it than I do, but a high pressure situation to me would generally tell me that it's probably not the heat pump. If you got a pressure switch, it's an inline peripheral device. If the pressure switch is going bad, you change the heat pump, you're still going to have a problem. Or am I wrong? I mean, you know more than anybody else here about it.
It could be different things. And like Clyde said, if the fan motor is acting up, that'll cause your pressure switch. If it's dirty, which he said it's not, that'll cause a pressure switch. Our water flow is good, so that would eliminate that part. So, you know,
Is this the only one that's acting up?
at this
All the
time,
ones you
yeah.
have.
And it acts up during times of high load, which we haven't had for the last month.
Usually it'll be out in the morning, and I can reset it, and it'll run all day this morning. Come in the next morning and out again. Or sometimes it has happened over the week, but that's not to say that maybe if you go out Friday night, you can leave out the entire weekend.
So basically, this heat pump does have a history of acting up. I mean, it wasn't just when he reported this last time. Last winter, it did act up too. And as of so far, have they been here before looking at it, or have you just been the one looking at it?
That's the only time I called, and I don't know if they were here in the past.
They have been here looking at that one before. So that one does have a history of acting up. Yes. Yeah. Now, as far as, yes,
How many of us would go into the winter with a 20-year-old furnace and not have something done out of it? I mean, we got 20-year-old furnaces. That's what basically my understanding of heat pump is. Why are we messing around with it? It's already giving us trouble. Replace it. We've got the money. Do it. It just means we're saving 1, 2, or 3 months down the road. As far as what John was saying, we need a schedule to be once a year. We need to find out how to do it. And hopefully we'll have more than 2 going a year.
what we've done is just replace them as they act up.
Yeah.
Because if you say we're going to replace this one and this one, 2 others will act up. So,
Here we get a chance.
Replace 2.
Here we have a chance at actually replacing one that's acting up with the plan that we were on, replacing 2 a year.
I guess I want to clarify one thing. I'm not saying that we should replace a certain number every year. What I want to know is, or saying is that we should have a policy to either do that or do them as whenever they completely stop working, or whatever you want to call it. That's all I'm saying.
okay.
And
And I guess,
I think that's something that impacts our budget. I think it's unfortunate if we have, in this case, $32,000 left that we can't, or whatever the number is, that we can't roll that forward and add it on to next year, because next year you could have 5 or 6 and then you'd have the money available. Why does that money have to go someplace else?
it doesn't have to, but that is,
Well, I mean,
that is
that's what
something
we're
that is
doing.
part of the budgeting process that
have-
you would have to talk to Kevin about. that.
Yeah, I know how that part of it works, but my point is simply that
It's been carried forward in the past. I know of certain cases where improvements were made in the next year because they budgeted it the year before and didn't get it done.
Okay, well, you've been around a year or two more than me, so.
Was that brought to the finance committee to have it carried
No,
forward?
it's just done.
Just done.
He said, the guy did it, says I can do it because I can. All right, roll call vote.
Crow? Yeah, sure.
Yes,
Alt?
no,
Hasbargen?
Yes.
Baird?
Yeah. Okay. Snow removal. I don't know if you two have been made aware of it yet, but apparently the budget is set up for snow removal to be done internally next year. So, this is something...
Budget constraints.
Due to budget constraints, yes. This is something I found out about Friday. So,
how much is that a savings to us? I assume it's a savings or we wouldn't do it.
Anita has left the room. I do not know.
It could be more expensive. Then why are we doing it? Depends on how much snow you're gonna get.
How are we gonna work budget,
Huh?
You can get a firm fee for the whole year. That's what we've had. All right.
Oh.
So that would be a firm fee.
I-
We know
I-
that was the...
Anita,
Thank God you're back.
We're on snow removal.
Oh my, so where's the discussion at?
well, I just broke the news to those two that,
How much is the savings was the question?
9,500, I think 4,750 out of the sheriff and 4,750 out of the village.
And the
does that
sheriff-
answer your question?
Did the sheriff talk to you?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
He was wondering,
Other people that were supposed to be notified.
Since we got the budget split, we're gonna say it for the house. Okay. When I plow snow, I furnace all fuel, and I buy salt, and furnace all salt, and I can split the cost of fuel and salt and repairs.
What about when your truck breaks down?
What?
Plow breaks.
That's repairs.
I'm not
Yeah, we plow snow, I just wanna make sure how this is gonna work.
Shouldn't, for your budget, for budgeting purposes, for costs, right?
Correct.
Right. Wouldn't it follow the same pattern as the cleaning supplies and the...
They're all separated.
Right, you have to-
That's what I'm talking about.
So we have to figure out how much of the gap relates to plumbing. I think we could come up, here's what I would do, right? This is just,
Maybe more square footage, how much snow we got, how much time we got, how much ice we got, and a lot of dirt.
all I'm saying is, I would recommend we talk to the sheriff and come up with an amount that has the ability to reach the fund. And then just pay whatever that is. And then if there's something that happens in terms of the repair, we agree with that. Does that sound, if you're trying to figure out like the gallons of gas,
Right. It becomes a nightmare.
that sounds like, yeah, we need more people in the accounting office. I don't think that's very cost
I
effective.
just
right.
I already had Bill Moore, we had Dodd, and Salt Shaker, absolutely. I got track running and tires, and everything else.
It's my recollection that the sheriff had said he was going to do his own snow removal at the courthouse this year anyway. At some point, he had said that.
Sheriff offices on the lawn, so he's carrying it on.
Well, and he had the outsourcing in his initial budget request, and that was one of the ways
He was
we cut costs.
I don't know, concern is that,
As opposed to you?
Are there inmates that are available to help with any of that?
the
And-
treasurer.
But you don't know?
Yeah, it's been 3 months since we had trustees, so I mean, I don't have, in the past, that you trustees, if I have trustees. So, what else do we, we have average snowfall or less, yeah, the two of us may be able to handle it, but what happens if we get into these bigger storms, where do we get the extra?
And the board members will come and help.
If
You
it's a
just
huge
hop
storm,
right on
then-
up here, John.
Especially jump on the weekend. I'll be right behind you, Donna.
I ain't coming. I just put that on the record. I don't
Uh.
scoop snow.
Just, if it is a huge storm that we can't handle, is the county highway available to come and at least move the bulk of it?
Well, I've always called them outside, you know, I know two people that plows, help us through the blizzard part of it. So, I mean, that's,
How much does that usually cost to do that?
oh my God, I don't know where that's set up for that thing, huh?
I mean, is that something that would be covered out of maintenance budgets, or is that something we would have to appropriate? I mean, is it a huge amount, or is it,
Oh, no.
so the maintenance budget could absorb it once or twice?
Usually by the hour, so.
You know, I think that's such an unknown
Yes, I
that
agree.
maybe at the max, we're talking about $1,000 maybe for a year.
Well, yeah, depends on how much snow.
Right,
how many times
so
it goes.
why don't we deal with it as it occurs? We can sit here all morning and estimate the weather for this winter.
Far as salt, usually when I got a bale of salt from the yard.
And we were paying horrific prices for salt in the past, so,
And, calcium chloride, I get from our household supplier, they use on the sidewalks, so we don't, go over.
what were you going to say?
Well, I agree with you, there's no way to determine what's gonna happen, but I guess my concern is, if it does happen, where do we go from there? Just so that we have that plan in place.
You want a
So that
phone
we're not
number?
sitting there trying to figure out, trying to make phone calls, figure out who's gonna come and get on the end of the shovel or whatever the case may be.
Have you heard this dissenting vote?
Board members is already got one.
And she ain't coming. Mark it down, she ain't coming.
Well, we do have time, hopefully, before the first snowstorm, maybe develop a list of backup people. That should be, I mean, I hope we don't have snow before our next meeting.
Farmers all have access to mail, a lot of it,
I know.
I actually one had a door and it was no light.
I know, it's everything, prognostications are for a nasty winter.
All right, hopefully that covers snow removal. We'll go on to maintenance supervisors' reports and complaints.
The, big utility pole behind, jail, was replaced a couple weeks ago. And that's the pole, and it's totally on. This is the one that has a 443 date on it. And on Tuesday, the same time they had a murder trial going on, so they had to do it after all this. They started about 4 to 5, got done about 8:30, reset everything. Everything was smooth, so. Just had to make sure nobody was stuck in the elevator, that's all. When the murder trial, that was technical.
Is that what this $1,750 is on the claim sheet? No?
That's a regular ambulance bill, that's a regular.
Okay.
That's all, that's all,
Yeah.
that's their responsibility.
Okay.
There's a little lot.
Correct.
Anything else?
roof is done, complete, parking lot, complete. Boilers are available to run, project is not completely done, still small punch list that they need to take care of, that we need insulation yet. Each individual boiler, we need to change the regulators for the gas. We got one house regulator feeding all three boilers, and that's not working when one boiler's running, the other kicks on, and messes up the pressures or whatever, so we're going to have to put a regulator on each individual boiler yet, we'll change that yet. I think that thing has got one leak yet too, we've got to take it care of. So the three things that are regulators, insulation, and leak. On that, we just got a second going from him this morning. It's not on the list, but probably need to go ahead and run that through there.
When is he going to have the final thing done?
I don't know. Friday, no, I'm sorry, Thursday evening, he came in with his welder. To have the welder take care of the leaks that he thought he had. The hole's been taken care of this morning, but there's another one in there that, and it's a different one than what was there last week, so it may have come up over the weekend. You may not even be aware of that week yet. Regulators, the factory guy was here, I believe it was Wednesday. Tuesday or Wednesday, he was here, they did the startup, and we got all the adjustments and everything, so I mean, we're at a point where we need them, we can turn them on, we're good to go. But that was when they discovered the regulator thing, and those need to be ordered from the supplier, so as far as when those come in, I can't tell you that, I don't know.
We had a specific completion date, didn't we?
Friday it was.
March Friday?
Which it was substantially complete other than the punch list.
Correct. And speaking of punch list,
When was he, yes?
that would be my question too, as to, calling Eminent to come in and do their final inspection and make their punch list as far as that needs to be done. I mean, my question is, I guess, along that lines is then, do we go ahead and call them, have them come in and make up their punch list, knowing that these other three items are going to be on their list, or do we wait until everything is complete?
Well,
before we have them come in?
I would have thought that they should have been the ones that came in and done that, since we're paying for that.
Right, they need to come in and do that, right, and we're paying for that, but my question is, at what point do we have them come?
Sooner rather than later, because if there's something they need to do, then we don't want them to think they're complete and then have another punch list handed to them. You know, when they're coming to do it, it's more efficient for them to do it all at once.
Right, so we have them coming in knowing that the three items that I talked about are most likely going to be on his list unless it has been done prior to that.
Should we have both of, we should have both of them here at the same time?
Yes. And I talked to the guy from the CNC and told him that I would let him know so that he can be here, because if they've got questions for him, you know, I'm not going to be able to answer for him. So, yes. Moving on.
Go ahead.
We have the floor maps, we have talked about trying to get a map placed and help. So, this is more research. One of the board members told me to check with the local company about cleaning and superior cleaners. They were able to clean, they were taking over there, they had a large machine over there, was able to take the bulk of them in there. But we have 4, I think, that were too big for that, so I ran a carpet cleaner and cleaned it and came up with a decent. So I think before that issue, if we do that 3-4 times a year, that'd be okay. With,
The Mr. Coyne from Superior, I'm just curious what, I haven't looked at the claim sheet.
On the front page, you'll see.
I see that, $91?
And then there was just for 40, like 3 or 4 up. That was for his renting the carpet, so that's the fence.
So, yeah, 131 and change to do that. If we do that 3-4 times, we do that every 2 weeks. The difference is going to be when it comes time when one has to replace it. They're a couple $100 each.
So for right now, we got it under control.
At the beginning of the fall, I started to repair and wash on, so they should be good from there. The process, painting, finding the office. That's about it, other than a big cricket invasion we had a couple of weeks ago. We wanted hundreds of miles for like 2-3 days in a row. It was unbelievable. I think they're good now. I put a couple door stops on here and there, trying to keep them, their door sleeves to the exterior doors, and that helped a little bit. And then we're good there. That's about it.
Okay, on the boiler project, since the punch list isn't done, do we approve this? Oh,
The bill is for 99%. They have 1% left that they have not approved.
okay. So the 1% in theory would cover the punch list.
That's
You could approve a partial, you could do 95%, you could, I don't know. They are paying 75%, which is what they were done as of June 30th. They haven't received anything yet. They've got specific bills attached to that where they bought materials, you can pay the materials. It's really up to the committee to decide.
Also, on boilers on the regulators, he brought up to me Thursday about the fact that on print it showed the one house regulator. That's not going to work. We got to put an individual on that. He's questioning where, is that going to be an extra or how that's going to be taken care of? Because it was not on print that way.
And because what the engineer specs is not working.
On the other side of that coin, there are some things that were spec that weren't necessary, they did not have to do. So,
Well,
That's
one of
where
those.
I think we need to get them in the same room at the same time.
Well, one of those things was that they wanted pressure gauges on individual lines. Well, the pressure gauges are built into the boiler, so plumbing-wise it's the same. It's just, it was something that was included in the boiler that didn't have to be done externally. It would be redundant. So,
So they didn't have to, our contractor didn't have to expend the cost for those gauges. So we're saying this might be an offset for these extra regulators.
I'm just told information, I'm not saying that.
yeah, because the boiler having that in it may have been higher price than one that didn't have it. So that's
Aren't you going to usually run into problems like that?
there's always some little thing. Yeah.
This is nothing
That
like
might be something, that might be something to go over.
They might have an idea to say, you know, well, this is why, and this is what we suggested.
I thought I saw something. What they bid was not up to what money was appropriated, I believe. But I'm not
better than the other
seeing
way
that
around.
now. Well, I'm just, if that's the case, then if there was a little more expense there was maybe a little bit left that was budgeted.
Yeah, so it's a wish out. For, but,
I'm not seeing that now. That's not right. Am I wrong?
The boiler was, let's see, I didn't find myself here looking, but, we had budgeted 75,000. And we had 75,000 in the grant, and then another, and I don't know what it was. Okay, so we have 75,000 plus 23,000 in so 98 total we have budgeted. 23,000 is in the capital improvement fund, and then 75 is in the grant fund. And so we had two bids, two vendors. We got 86, no wait. 87, 7950 plus 9,500 from Tenon. So the total cost, 97,450. So we got 550 extra bucks if we need it.
I knew there was extra. Okay.
Good job there.
Okay. Well, I guess we need a motion from somebody to, how do we want to handle that? Do we want, like you said, we can pay this and still have 1%, we can pay a portion of this, we can pay the amount that would cover the materials.
what's the downside if we pay it all?
They don't come back and finish.
I think it's standard procedure on contracts of this type to have 10% held back until it's complete, so my suggestion would be to pay all but $8,700 of that. Keep that $8,700 until they're complete, got the punch list is all done and everything is the way it should be, and then they'll get that money. That would be
That's
my
your suggestion or your motion? Is that your suggestion or your motion?
Well, if you want a motion, I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Do a roll call vote.
Crow? Yes. Sure.
Yes.
Alt?
Yes.
Asperger?
Yes.
Barron?
Yes. So that one has been approved. So when we do the rest of them, that one won't be included in it. Okay. I guess, is that all on boiler update? Okay. Capital improvement project, parking lot resurfacing. Roof project, already said is done. Capital improvements for fiscal year 16. What we have budgeted is a line item for heat pumps, a line item for jail water lines, and painting the exterior of this building, touching it up. I don't know that we need to take any action on that. That's going to be part of the budget, unless there's anybody that has any objections to any of it.
I so move.
Well, I don't know that we need anything. It was just, I guess, more of an informational thing to have it discussed, because it's a budget issue, not ours.
Is what?
It's a budget issue, so it's a finance issue. It's just something so that we're aware of it here, because we're the ones that are going to have to let those bid.
You had mentioned something about, I wrote down your capital improvement list on one of the old agendas. You had mentioned signs. Is that still part of the plan, or is that gone by the wayside with the budget?
Well, what happened, that got two, there was, let's see, in Clyde's budget originally, there was, I think, 1,000 for signage to replace that sign on Pleasant Road, and 1,000 for a new vacuum. What we said, they both got cut out of his general fund budget, but what we told him is, if he's got room this year, watch the next 50 days, and then do a this year. His budget this year is running, you can see, way under. So he's more than likely got room in repairs and maintenance. He's only at 50%, 3/4 of the way through the year. And household supplies, he's at 60%. He spent $4,231 out of the $7,000 budget. So it looks like to us, there would be room in this year's budget for Clyde to take care of those two items this year, and so we cut them out of the budget next year.
Any other questions on that?
You had something, Larry, what did we decide about those back steps at the courthouse?
Derek, we come up with this capital agreement with capital jail, this, money crunch, so they said, try to patch or repair what I can do another year, do it next year, maybe.
Were there any other things that either of you two gentlemen mentioned that I'm not remembering?
Maybe.
All right. Moving on. Claims.
I move we pay the claims.
Excluding the CMC one, which has already been approved.
I guess, yes. Well, 80% less.
Right.
Right. Including it,
Well, it's already been done separately.
right.
So we don't want to include that with that, because if we do, then it's going to be paid 100%. He did say, okay. And vote?
Crow? Yes. Sure.
Yes.
Alt?
Yes.
Hasbargen? Barron?
Yes. Is there any old business? New business? Under new business, just reminder, doing the farm contract after the meeting.
Tuesday.
Yeah, after the regular board meeting.
8th or 9th, whatever it is.
And at that time, we will have, in theory, a new member of the committee,
Well, maybe.
if he gets approved.
Maybe. Don't tell him he's on it now.
So, all right. Seeing no other business, is there a motion?
I move to adjourn.
Second? All in favor?
John, I won't need it.